At least 7 people were killed in 2 separate strikes on Lebanon's capital, Beirut, early on Wednesday, the Lebanese health ministry said. It added that at least 24 people had been injured as Israel claimed it had struck a senior Hezbollah commander and another member of the group. More Israeli strikes also hit southern Lebanon as fierce clashes with Hezbollah fighters continued. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said his country intends to occupy large parts of southern Lebanon in the strongest language yet from Israel since invading its northern neighbor.
בנוסף, תיאסר באופן מוחלט חזרתם דרומית לליטני של למעלה מ-600,000 תושבי דרום לבנון שהתפנו צפונה עד שיובטח ביטחונם ושלומם של תושבי הצפון. כל הבתים בכפרים סמוכי הגבול בלבנון יהרסו בהתאם למודל רפיח ובית חנון בעזה כדי להסיר אחת ולתמיד את האיומים סמוכי הגבול מעל תושבי הצפון.
Lebanese Defense Minister Michel Menassa quickly condemned the comments, saying the plans reflect a clear intention to impose a new occupation of Lebanese territory and forcibly displace hundreds of thousands of citizens. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney denounced Israel's deployment of troops against Hezbollah targets in Lebanon as an illegal invasion that violates its integrity and sovereignty. Lebanese authorities say the war has so far killed more than 1,200 people and displaced more than 1 million.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Wednesday that he is considering pulling his country out of NATO, describing the transnational alliance as a paper tiger. I would say it's beyond reconsideration, he said in remarks to the UK daily The Telegraph. Trump has repeatedly railed against Western partners for not responding to his call to assemble a naval force to help reopen the crucial Strait of Hormuz, which has effectively been closed by Tehran as the war in the Middle East continues to drag on. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer came to NATO's defence on Tuesday.
NATO is the single most effective military alliance the world has ever seen, and it has kept us safe for many decades, and we are fully committed to NATO.
Earlier on Tuesday, it was revealed that Italy had denied an US aircraft permission to land while it was on the way to the Middle East for a combat mission. On Monday, Spain closed its airspace to US planes carrying out missions against Iran.
The U.S. Supreme Court began hearing opening arguments on Wednesday in President Donald Trump's historic bid to abolish birthright citizenship. The landmark case is a pillar of Trump's attempts to restrict immigration, and with it, looking to end what is a constitutional right in the U.S. under the 14th Amendment. The Republican president broke protocol by choosing to attend the opening remarks in person, where he sat in the audience, a move unprecedented by any sitting president. He was present as the Solicitor General John Sauer presented the administration's arguments, but did not sit in as American Civil Liberties Union attorney Cecilia Wang presented the defense.
I come out of the court today with the thought of my parents and so many of our parents and ancestors who came to this country seeking refuge, seeking new opportunities, and who relied on the rule that we've had in this country for 150 years, that everyone born here is a United States citizen, all alike.
A crowd of protesters opposed to Trump's efforts to limit the right also gathered outside the courthouse.
If the Supreme Court chooses to overturn birthright citizenship after 158 years, then we would have to climb on top of that building and erase those words, equal protection under the law. We might as well replace it with gold letters that says Trump Court, not Supreme Court, Emperor's Court, King's Court. But today we come to say it's our court, it's the people's court.
Trump signed an executive order following his return to office last year suspending birthright citizenship, a move lower courts blocked until a Supreme Court decision was issued. The top U.S. court will now hear arguments over the coming months and is expected to hand down a ruling in early summer.
The European Union High Representative Kaja Kallas has said that if Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban continues to block the €90 billion loan intended for Ukraine, the European Union will have to reconsider using frozen Russian assets. Kallas made the comments during a visit to Kyiv with several EU foreign ministers to commemorate the 4th anniversary of the Bucha massacre.
The loan that we are working right now to deliver, that we agreed in the end of last year, but let me remind you that that was actually Plan B. Plan A was the use of frozen assets. So we should also keep in mind that if Plan B does not work, let's go back to Plan A. But we definitely need to deliver Ukraine the financing that they need to resist the Russian aggression.
At the commemoration event, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky took the opportunity to emphasize that Europe's own security is also at stake because of the war.
Russia must not be left in any position that it could see as better than before, not in territory, not in technologies, not in politics. This is essential for peace and Europe.
Zelensky also said he was confident that the US will also resume its support for Ukraine as soon as its attention is no longer tied in the Middle East conflict.
European prosecutors demanded that Greece lift the parliamentary immunity of 11 members of parliament suspected of involvement in a scam that siphoned off millions of euros in EU farm subsidies for years. The case has piled pressure on Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis, given his family's political influence in Crete, where most of the allegedly fraudulent subsidies went.
Η σημερινή ανακοίνωση της Ευρωπαϊκής Εισαγγελίας συνιστά μια σοβαρή εξέλιξη. Αναμένουμε τη διαβίβαση της δικογραφίας στη Βουλή των Ελλήνων, προκειμένου να γίνει αξιολόγηση για κάθε περίπτωση ξεχωριστά.
Police in Greece made dozens of arrests in connection with the scandal last year. According to the Greek authorities, the network defrauded at least 23 million euros since it began operating around 2018. The suspects are accused of making subsidy claims for land they did not own and exaggerating the number of animals on farms. Germany's top economic research institutes have more than halved their growth forecasts for 2026. While economists were still forecasting growth of 1.3% last autumn, they now expect GDP to expand by only 0.6% this year and by 0.9% in 2027.
Die größten Unsicherheiten ergeben sich aus dem weiteren Verlauf des Iran-Konflikts. Falls sich der Krieg ausweitet oder länger andauert, würden höhere Energiepreise die Erholung in Deutschland zusätzlich dämpfen. Es könnten Lieferketten gestört werden oder auch Finanzmärkte in stärkere Turbulenzen geraten.
The institutes expect average annual inflation to reach 2.8% in 2026 and 2.9% in 2027, while parts of the German defense industry and civil engineering are benefiting from government spending. Industry as a whole is struggling. The chemical sector is bearing the sharpest pain. Experts argued against short-term activism, in particular a cut to fuel prices.
3 same-sex couples tied the knot just after midnight at Amsterdam City Hall on Wednesday in honor of the 25th anniversary of the world's first gay marriages. The celebration honored the 2001 group wedding when 4 same-sex couples were married in a landmark ceremony for LGBTQ+ rights that paved the way for similar legislation in nearly 40 countries around the world. Some of the couples who exchanged vows on that momentous night were present at the anniversary wedding ceremony, as well as Prime Minister Rob Jetten, who himself is openly gay and plans to marry his partner soon.
As a Prime Minister, I'm very proud that we celebrate 25 years of universal marriage here in the Netherlands. And also for me personally, I can still remember when I was 14 years old watching TV, seeing the first couples getting married here in Amsterdam. That was also very inspiring and emancipating for me personally as it has been for so many others.
While such weddings are commonplace now in the Netherlands, Jette says there is still more work to be done.
Yeah, I think the Netherlands needs to get back on track, especially protecting trans persons in the Netherlands, or creating better legislation for surrogacy to make sure that we become a top 10 country again in terms of queer rights.
Since 2001, more than 36,000 same-sex couples have married, according to the country's official statistics office.
Australia's online safety watchdog is considering legal action against social media giants, including Meta, TikTok and YouTube, alleging they have failed to keep children under 16 off their platforms. The first compliance report since the ban's implementation on 10th of December found that a substantial number of children continue to bypass age assurance systems, and that half of the monitored platforms are not taking reasonable steps to prevent underage access. Communications Minister Annika Wells accused the companies of deliberately doing the absolute bare minimum to undermine the legislation to discourage other nations from following Australia's lead.
As of early March, 5 million social media accounts have been deactivated or removed. We have seen some progress, but the e-safety compliance update released today lays bare the facts. Australia's world-leading social media laws are not failing, but big tech is failing to obey the laws.
Court could now impose fines up to 30 million euros for systemic failures, with a final decision on court action expected by mid-year. In response, Meta stated that determining age online remains an industry-wide challenge, while Snapchat reported locking 450,000 accounts to date. Meanwhile, Reddit and Digital Freedom Project have filed constitutional challenges in the High Court, arguing the ban infringes upon the implied freedom of political communication. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for 21st of May.